Well, good morning, everyone. Yesterday was quite the day with me losing the car key and breaking into my car, but feeling a lot better today. I think it's just because I'm settling into a bit of a routine here and venturing through a wash that I've been through many times before, and I've never actually shot any photos in this particular stretch, but this year the color is really good all the way back through here, and I've already scattered out a couple shots. I think they'll be pretty good. And in these deep bends of the washes here, you get really nice, good reflected light through a good chunk of the day. So I have a feeling I'll be spending quite a bit of time here. But these maples are really beautiful. And it's a little weird because this is the second year in a row that they've had really dry conditions. There hasn't been any summer rain. And so the maples, as soon as they start turning color, the color fades really fast and the leaves just dry out. So I feel like it's the whole wash here that has all these beautiful leaves, they're preserved a bit because this is in the deep shade. I definitely will need to make good use of this color before it starts to fade. So beautiful here. So while wandering the wash, I found this really beautiful stand of maples here. And it's in this sort of in-between color where there's a little bit of greens and some yellows and some pinks and not a lot of red, but it's just like this wonderful mix of pastel colors. And I went ahead and set up both a horizontal composition as well as a vertical composition and exposed both Velvia and Portra, so a total of 4 sheets of film. And it's a very subdued light right now. And one thing that's a little tricky is that the rocks there are pretty bright, and so that's pushing the brightness end of the film, and there's also some really dark areas back there. And what I found is that sometimes Velvia may look best when looking at the slide, but those rocks and the really bright spots, Provia does better with that. So that's why I shot both Provia as well as Velvia 50 in the scene. But the wind is absolutely calm right now, nothing but blue sky overhead. Very nice subdued reflected light. So it feels great to find this, but this whole corridor, there's so much potential here. So I have a feeling I'm gonna spend the entire day just in this one small area and see what else I can find, because it's so beautiful here, that's for sure. So after photographing the previous scene, I moved my camera a little closer. I found this area that has this really cool looking branch with all these vibrantly colored leaves and just different stages of fall color. And it drops down towards the rocky wash. And I love the visual contrast between these warm, delicate leaves and then the cold, hard stone. And I've made a composition out of it. It seems slightly experimental, but it seems to work pretty well on the ground glass, so it'll be interesting to see how this all turns out. But the tricky thing is the depth of field. So if I have the plane of focus following the leaves there, the stones in the background are just going to be just a blurry mess, even at f/45. So I have a little bit of reverse front tilt, just a tiny bit, to get a little bit of a grounding sharpness in the rocks, as well as most of the leaves are going to be pretty decent as well. But I'm going to miss out on focus on these guys here, which is a little bit of a bummer, but we'll see how it turns out. But it was metered at 13 seconds, and by the time you add reciprocity failure, it resulted in a 20-second long exposure. And it was really nice and calm as I was doing the exposure, because even the slightest little bit of breeze will have an impact as the leaves are moving around there. But pretty cool to find this scene, so I think I'm gonna head further up the wash, see what else I can find. But at some point I'm gonna head back to my truck and load some film, because I've burned through most of my Velvia 50 between yesterday and today. So that's a good problem to have. So I found another scene, so I moved my camera probably about 25 feet. And I've been within this same like small triangle all morning. But I got my camera back there. I got a 450 millimeter lens, so a decently long lens. I'm aiming it back up at a maple over there, and it's very faint up against the sandstone cliff. But basically the color of the leaves is about the same as the sandstone wall behind it, so what you really see are just the branches. So it's like this kind of almost like a stained glass window sort of effect, which is kind of neat. So it'll be interesting to see how it all turns out. I was just waiting for that perfect moment when the wind was really calm, and I went with 1.6 second exposure at f/22 to try to minimize any chance of wind messing it up. But a little on the experimental side, but I'll be curious to see how this one turns out. But now I think it's time to head back to the truck, get some lunch, and also load a little bit of film because I'm running low in Velvia 50 right now. But it's been a pretty productive morning. Well, several hours have passed since doing the last video. In that time, I went back to my truck, loaded film, made lunch, and headed back down to the canyon and found another tree, really cool box elder, and set up a vertical and horizontal composition. I didn't do any video of it, but I'll show it at the end if that one turned out. But now I'm heading down the canyon to a side canyon that is not frequently visited, and I'll see about setting up the game cam. See if I can get a chance of getting a elusive mountain lion on camera this year. So it'd be really cool if that works out. I'm gonna head over there and see about finding a spot for the camera. The ingredients of landscape photography are simple: subject, light, and composition. Despite being excited about the subjects I found and having exposed so many sheets of film that day, there is one very important element missing: good light. The truth is, I felt rushed by the rapidly changing color, and the large crowds made it difficult to move around within the park. In many ways, the subjects and compositions I chose were fueled by past success, rather than being a product of truly observing the world around me. Even so, these photos still had a purpose. They gave me a much-needed sense of accomplishment that would carry forward in the days to come. Although I liked the overall composition of the first scene, the light is flat and the exposure is a bit dark. I was trying to avoid overexposing the foreground rocks, but in the process of doing so, the shadows in the background are quite muddy. Color negative film would have been a much better choice for this subject, but the primary issue here was the quality of light. The same applies to the close-up of the maple branch. Although I like the mixture of textures, the cold flat lighting leaves a lot to be desired. The photo of the orange maple set against the sandstone cliff was also a major disappointment. This scene looked fantastic on the ground glass, but the slide is disorienting at best. My final subject that day was a tortured box elder tree, located deep within a narrow canyon. Despite being a great subject, this photo suffers the same fate as the others. I found both the horizontal and a vertical composition of this scene, but I think this subject is better suited for black and white film. Thanks as always for watching. We'll see you around next time. If you enjoy this ad-free and clickbait-free content and want to help me live my dream, a voluntary contribution of just $24 a year helps keep my gas tank full and my film freezer stocked. For more information on how to support me and my work, please visit the donation section of my website at benhorn.com/donate. I also have prints and my portfolio box set available on my website. You can find a direct link down below in the show notes. Thanks in advance for your support.